I think it's wrong for anybody, excuse me, to campaign on one thing and then go back to office and do the complete opposite.
Republican congressional candidate Danny Tarkanian sits down with us to explain why he's making his 5th bid for elected office, how he plans to win, his immigration plans, and more.
The Cubans really took Obama's visit as that olive branch, and I think it's fantastic. I'm glad we did that.
We are U.S. Uncle Sucker. We're the suckers in this whole thing.
And our face-off panel weighs in on the president's visit to Cuba and whether it can bring any change. And
the Las Vegas Sands gets a cold reception on its plan to use room tax money to build a stadium.
From 8 News Now, this is Politics Now with Steve Sebelius and Patrick Walker.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm Patrick Walker.
And I'm Steve Sebelius. Danny Tarkanian is one of 7 Republicans running for the 3rd Congressional District. That's the seat Joe Heck is giving up to run for U.S. Senate. I sat down with him this week to talk immigration, government shutdowns, and the front-runner in the race, State Senate Majority Leader Michael Roberson. So you've run before. We were talking about that. This will be your 5th time running. You won some primaries, but not a general election. So why is this time, you think, going to be different?
Well, the races are completely different.
You're a fairly conservative candidate. There's other conservative candidates in the race: Annette Tahero, Michelle Fiore, Andy Matthews. How are you going to make it so that you conservative candidates don't split the same a small segment of the vote and allow somebody like Michael Roberson to capture independents and more moderate Republicans and win the nomination out from under you that way?
In a Republican primary, there's only Republicans that vote, so we're not worried about the independents. I don't believe there's 10% of the Republican primary that will vote for Michael Roberson if they know his record. His voting record is not even more moderate. I believe it's more to the liberal side. I hate to sit here and say, hey, who's the most conservative candidate out here, that you try to one conservative each other. Look, I have strong beliefs that our country's better off if we follow the conservative principles, but they're common sense conservative principles. And I think if you sit down, I've sat down with Brian Greenspun, and I sat down with Jim Rogers before he passed away, and I told them my positions, and most of them they agreed with. So I believe that there's a common sense conservative principles that 90+% of the Republican Party believes in and will vote that way, and it's my responsibility to get my message out to that 90%, and if I get a good chunk of that, we'll win.
Michael Roberson once signed the Taxpayer Protection Pledge. He said he was not going to raise taxes. This is when he was a freshman state senator.
It's actually when he ran for office first.
When he ran for
State Senate.
State Senate, right. So he signed that taxpayer pledge. There's photos, so there's no doubt that he did that. In this last session, he voted for the commerce tax that passed, along with a number of other taxes that were in that bill, SB 43. And so you obviously think that was the wrong thing for him to do.
I think it's wrong for anybody, excuse me, to campaign on one thing and then go back to office and do the complete opposite. You simplify what he did. He moves to Nevada and basically to run for office, and he promises to be a fiscal conservative. He signed, not only did he sign the no tax pledge, but there's a full statement that we released already from his own words when he ran for office, saying Nevada voters are tired of politicians who promise one thing when they run for office and then go back to Carson City and do a complete opposite. Vote for me and we'll stop that. Well, he did exactly the same thing he was saying he was going to run against. And if you look at what's happening on both the Republican and Democrat side in the presidential races, the public is tired of people that mislead them. They feel they can't trust people who go back to whether it's Carson City or Washington, D.C., because they don't do what they promise when they campaign. Roberson completely violated that principle. He didn't just vote for the commerce tax. He voted to increase taxes $1.5 billion. He voted 29 times out of 29 times for tax increases the last legislative session. He didn't vote no for a tax increase. Now, I think that's a huge credibility problem that he has.
You talk about building a strong wall on the southern border, vigorous new vetting of all immigrants. Do you believe there's any circumstance in which there would be a pathway to full citizenship for people who have come here illegally?
No, I don't believe that you can have somebody who comes here illegally give them full citizenship. I think you're now penalizing the people that are doing it the right way. But you know, there's got to be an answer for the people that are here illegally. I don't believe you're going to round them up and deport 11 million people or 20 million if that's what there are there. But the answers isn't just one topic there. If you're going to do this, you got to solve the problem, and then you talk about what do you do with the people that are here illegally and what their status is going to be. How can we continue to have a country that says if you come in the country illegally, we're going to give you health care benefits, more than just life-saving health care. We're going to give you full health care benefits, full education benefits, many times welfare benefits, and other type of federal subsidies or tax subsidies, state subsidies that were given to people that are here illegally. Those things have to be cut off. They have to be eliminated. We have to have a rule of law that the only people that should get Americans' taxpayer benefits are people that are here in the country legally. We have to eliminate all these sanctuary cities that are out there. How can we have a country that says, hey, San Francisco, we don't agree with the federal immigration policy, so we're not going to enforce those laws? How does this, and they still get federal funds? See, there's all these problems out here that the left doesn't want to talk about. They want to use the immigration issue as a political tool to try to get Latino votes, but they don't want to talk about the problems that are really out there.
Would you ever take a vote that you know would end up shutting down the government?
Well, how would you know? See, this was a problem I have with the way you word that and the way the media talks about it. Why is the Republican-controlled Congress shutting down the government when they pass a budget?
Well, I'm talking about any party, any vote that could be seen as, okay, we're not going to approve the budget. We know the spending authorization runs out.
Who approves the budget? Who passes the budget?
The Congress passes the
does.
budget.
Okay, so I'm going to vote to pass a budget.
Okay.
Absolutely. Every time I'm going to vote to pass a budget. Now, if we have some kind of guy in the White House that says, hey, I'm not going to sign this budget and implement a wall and close down the government because I think the Planned Parenthood should get $800 million from our taxpayers, so therefore I'm going to shut the government down, that's his fault. Yeah. The problem that we have as a Republican Party is we allow them to blame it. We allow them to blame it on Congress. Congress's responsibility is to pass a budget. I'll pass a budget. Yeah. And if we have
well, I did have a chance to sit in on part of that interview, and Mr. Tarkanian also said he would support Donald Trump if he were the nominee.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of the default position most Republicans have, even conservatives, because they think the Democratic candidates are so much worse. But it's always interesting to hear conservatives say that, including Danny Tarkanian, because Donald Trump has been many things in his career, businessman, TV star, but he has never been a conservative at any point during his career. So it's interesting sometimes to hear them say we'll definitely support him as the nominee. So, well, coming next, laying out a plan for taxes.
The issues in Congress isn't the tax issues; it's the tax exemptions, the tax credits.
Danny Tarkanian talks about corporate welfare and middle-class tax cuts when Politics Now continues. Stay with us.
At CBS News, we're honored to have won many Emmy Awards for excellence in broadcast journalism. We've won Peabody's, DuPont's, and Murrow Awards. But the truth is, we don't do all our original reporting to earn awards. We do it to earn your trust. CBS News, original reporting.
The Race Now on Politics Now is sponsored by NV Energy. We are putting all of our energy into your energy.
There's lots of great reasons to visit the Suncoast Hotel and Casino. We have hundreds of new casino games with even more coming soon. Lots of jackpots being paid at the home of big jackpots on Rampart Boulevard. The new Briggs Oyster Company, where you can indulge your craving for seafood and more, all cooked exhibition style. Or enjoy a great view and the best steak on the boulevard at SC Prime. And don't forget the Game Sports Bar for great craft draft beer, tasty bar food, and TV screens galore. There's no better time to be connected at the Suncoast. See Be Connected Club for details.
Nevada is one of the worst places in America for the sex trafficking of teenage girls.
Thankfully, Catherine Cortez Masto went to work to help law enforcement fight back.
As Attorney General, she made sex trafficking a felony crime and increased sentences.
She gave victims the right to sue their captors.
And expanded the sex offender registry to protect kids.
Catherine's a problem solver. That's what she's all about.
Isn't that something we need more of in Washington?
I'm Catherine Cortez Masto, and I approve this message.
What's the most awarded car company of the year? Ranking from top to bottom.
Luxury cars seem like they would be top awarded.
Better be some awards behind what you're paying for, right?
The final answer?
Chevy.
The most awarded car company 2 years in a row.
Wow, it's like a luxury car.
I was shocked. I mean, it's like, this is Chevy?
current qualified competitive lessees can get a sign and drive lease on this Chevy Cruze Limited. Find new roads at your local Chevy dealer.
Welcome back to Politics Now.
Well, welcome back. Danny Tarkanian is part of a crowded Republican field, of course, running for Congress in the 3rd District.
My interview with him continues as we shift to talking about tax policy. You now running for Congress, are you willing to say you will not vote for any taxes if you are elected to Congress?
No, I've signed the no tax pledge, but there's the problem with the issues in Congress isn't the tax issues, it's the tax exemptions, the tax credits, the special interest groups get all the tax breaks. If we would eliminate, I don't think the answer is raising people's taxes right now. The answer is cutting away the special tax breaks that are giving away hundreds of billions of dollars a year to the people that have the influence over the legislators, and they're getting breaks that the rest of the people don't get. Why is it okay for General Electric not to pay any federal income taxes, but then we have a corporation here in Nevada that's paying 37 or 38% corporate income taxes? Because General Electric has the ability to hide their money overseas. They got the lobbyists to keep in place the bill so they don't have to pay for it.
But you have signed the tax pledge, which means you would not vote for a net increase in taxes.
It's different than the state one, so you have to look at it and see. But there is the flexibility to be able to increase revenue in certain areas, but at the same time, you have to decrease the exemptions.
So there's no net increase.
There's no net increase.
But you're committed to that.
Yeah, we don't need to. You think we need to raise more money here through raising people's taxes, or can you raise more money by cutting out the exemptions that are given? Hundreds of billions of dollars are given away to big companies that hide the money overseas called inversions. So we haven't even talked about the other tax breaks. I'm against the $20 billion in tax credits we give to oil industries, the $18 billion we give to ethanol. And then you go through all these other tax credits that were given to big industries because of the money they have. Why should we raise the everyday person's tax rates when all these people are raping the country with their tax credits? Because we don't have legislators that are strong enough to go back there and fight and do what's right. And that's what I will do.
You've said on your website that you support massive across-the-board tax cuts. I assume for individuals, along with the elimination of those exemptions that you were just talking about.
And I don't know if you said the word massive. I think we should.
Well, no, I'm quoting your website. You said massive.
If you want to support, if you want to get the economy going, I believe we could cut our taxes, eliminate these tax breaks. That means everybody's paying their fair share, and you get away from the special tax breaks. We'll have more money coming in tax revenue because of the elimination of the tax breaks, and at the same time, because we lower the tax rate for everybody else, we're going to stimulate the economy with increased spending. That's the answer to go right now. There's no reason why we should have the highest corporate tax rate and make all the blue-collar workers out here that don't have the ability to hide the money overseas pay more than anybody else, but then give the General Electrics of the world a free pass and not have them pay anything.
Do you think?
Well, that interview lasted quite a while. Of course, you can see the whole thing, including Danny Tarkanian talking about terrorism and why he was against the war in Iraq on LasVegasNow.com. So, Steve, out of all of that, any takeaways from your interview?
Yeah, you know, this is Tarkanian's 5th bid for office. He's won some Republican primaries, but never a general election. He's got great name recognition. He's shown he's got the ability to raise money, but eventually he's going to have to win to avoid the title of being a perennial candidate. But, you know, as he told me during the interview, and this probably comes from his basketball background, you'll never win if you quit trying.
Yeah, there you go. Good advice, and something, of course, I'm sure he picked up from his father.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, the Las Vegas Sands continued his pitch to build a stadium with room tax money this week, but many of those who would have to approve it seem doubtful. County Commission Chairman Steve Sisolak expressed his concerns over the low probability of an NFL team like the Oakland Raiders getting approval to move to Las Vegas. And with no NFL team, Sisolak says he's concerned over an oversized college stadium sitting empty for most of the year. MGM and others want the room tax money to go to expanding and renovating the Las Vegas Convention Center. Both sides this week putting out competing polls showing the public was behind them, but neither side would release the inside details of how those polls worked. Well, coming up, Obama and Castro.
To take the criticism from this tin-horn dictator in front of the world, I think was a foolish thing.
Something is better than nothing. Baby steps.
Our face-off panel takes on the president's visit to Cuba next.
And the State Ethics Commission weighs in on North Las Vegas Mayor John Lee.
The Greater Las Vegas Association of Realtor members live, work, and play in Southern Nevada. helping homeowners and protecting private property rights for 69 years. BRYAN is proud to be an 8 News Now Community Pride Partner.
Sienna Italian Restaurant and Bar, celebrating over 25 years serving authentic Italian cuisine and drinks to Las Vegas. Call today to book your private event or party in our newly remodeled banquet hall, only at Sienna Italian Restaurant, 702-360-3358.
Don't take our word for it.
I love my car and I love the technology in it, and I feel more comfortable with it because the people at Henderson Hyundai have taken the time to instruct me how to use it.
The salespeople are wonderful and they're personable.
I would recommend Henderson Hyundai Superstore. As a matter of fact, I do.
We beat any offer or pay you $1,000 cash on the spot in Henderson, of course.
The Greater Las Vegas Association of Realtor members live, work, and play in Southern Nevada, helping homeowners and protecting private property rights for 69 years. BRYAN is proud to be an 8 News Now Community Pride Partner.
Monday morning.
Break out the tissues because spring allergies are here.
That they are. What you can do to keep them at bay, we've got the measures you need to know about. Plus, take me out to the ball game.
Thousands of baseball fans are getting ready to flood the 51 stadium.
When you can catch the Cubs and the Mets in Las Vegas.
Plus, Avicii, Tiesto, Calvin Harris, and more.
DJ's tearing up the music scene in Las Vegas. We'll show you how your smartphone can help you spin like the pros.
It's all coming up Monday morning.
Welcome back. This is The Race Now, where we recap the big political stories of the week.
Let's start with the updated delegate count in the presidential race. Donald Trump has crossed the 50% mark, and he has garnered 739 delegates. Trump won in Arizona, the biggest prize this week, but Cruz picked up the Utah caucus and has about a third of the delegates he needs to capture the nomination. Kasich continues to fall further behind, leaving a brokered GOP convention as his only shot at the nomination. On the Democratic side, frontrunner Hillary Clinton won Arizona and Bernie Sanders picked up Utah and Idaho, but Clinton remains well ahead in both pledged delegates and superdelegates. Those are party and elected officials who can support whomever they wish, but those superdelegates can always change their mind later in the process.
President Obama made a trip to Havana this week and declared that he will end embargoes with the communist dictatorship. The trip included a baseball game and photo opportunities with Cuban leader Raul Castro. He also continued his South America trip by visiting Argentina. The president took fire here in the States from political rivals continuing the trip in the wake of Belgian terror attacks.
And the State Ethics Commission said 2 complaints filed against North Las Vegas Mayor John Lee were not within the scope of their legal jurisdiction. The complaints accuse Lee of influencing hiring decisions for business and religious allies and operating with a, quote, reign of terror, unquote. Lee said he felt vindicated and blamed the accusations on disgruntled former employees of the city.
All right, so let's kind of a two-part question I have about this. A, how do you think the Ethics Committee decision is going to affect the mayoral race up in North Las Vegas? And then, is it better for Lee, who can claim some sort of a victory, or for a presumptive opponent like Tom Collins, who can use maybe some of the information that comes out against him later on?
Yeah, I know Mayor Lee claimed this as a victory. It's really not necessarily a victory. Basically, the Ethics Commission said, look, there are allegations here of wrongdoing. It's just that they're not within the scope of what we do in terms of enforcing this particular law. So it's not to say that some of those complaints may not find a vindication with other groups like the EEOC or the Employee Management Relations Board, so some other group that might have jurisdiction. So how it'll affect the mayoral race, I don't think it really will have an impact, because just because there was no final adjudication that he did anything right or wrong, I don't think it'll do it. But the allegations themselves, those will come up on the campaign trail, I'm sure.
All right. Well, let's move on to Face Off now. The presidential trip to Cuba was the subject of this week's Face Off. We asked whether it was a good idea and if it will change anything there. Of course, this week from the right, we talked to KXNT radio host Alan Stock, and from the left, former Democratic State Party Chairwoman Adriana Martinez.
I think it's a start. It's a good start. There are so many Cubans in this country who have family members that live there. It opens up more travel, more trade, and we need to keep friends that are close by. And I think the Cubans really took Obama's visit as that olive branch, and I think it's fantastic. I'm glad we did that.
First of all, let me differentiate between the Cuban people, as you are, and between the leadership of Cuba, because Cuban people here have been traditionally pretty conservative, and they have been anti-opening up the door to Castro. So the Cuban people, that's not an issue. Going there and standing next to a tin horn dictator with a picture of Che Guevara, who was a butcher, murdered hundreds of people at will, himself got killed trying to export terrorism throughout South America. For the president to do that, I thought was foolish. To take the criticism from this tin horn dictator in front of the world, I think was a foolish thing. The people of Cuba, the people that have been interviewed since, I've read many articles where people have been interviewed, and they say, you know what? It's not going to do anything for us. I mean, this Castro regime is not going to loosen anything up. Obama's visit here, nice, but it's not going to accomplish anything. So, you know, while it was a nice gesture, it's not going to mean anything in the long run. Eventually, when the Castros are out, and eventually if the Cuban people can overthrow whatever government is there that's oppressive, you'll see things change. But it's going to take a while.
Something is better than nothing, baby steps, and at least, look, this is the first time that a U.S. president goes into Cuba in 90 years. So I believe it's a good gesture on behalf of the United States.
Did you like the idea that he's standing there next to this tin horn dictator while they're criticizing us, and he's going, yeah, well, gee, I can't really argue with you. Maybe you're right. Maybe we don't do this. I mean, this is a tin horn dictator who have imprisoned people, they've murdered people, political prisoners still there, and then to say to the cameras, I tell you what, give me a name of a political prisoner and we'll release them. They've given them hundreds of names. They're not releasing anybody.
We have a lot of people at stake. We have a lot of people at stake, and that's the most important part of it all.
I do want to go back to the point about when the Castros come out eventually and you start to see the wheels turn. I've heard Republicans argue this point. What if we would have opened up relations 30, 40 years ago? Would we be at that point today? Would it have been beneficial to do this sooner, or do you think we shouldn't be doing it at all, past, present, or future?
Well, the reason that wasn't done sooner was because the Castro regime under Fidel Castro was adamant about the fact that they were going to export their form of terrorism. That's what I call terrorism. He called it freedom fighting and liberation and stuff like that. Yeah, he was very, very clear about the fact that he was going to export his freedom fighting and whatever, and they were going to do it to wherever they could. They were at complete odds. We're enemies with them. Now, Raul Castro has said, nothing is going to change in this country just because you came here. And we do want you to open up trade and drop the embargo and all this, but we're not going to change. He said that while Obama was there. We're not going to change anything.
Well, he's not going to be there forever. So if we start just with baby steps, then this guy's going to, I mean, look how old he is. These guys are going to disappear. There is going to be change in Cuba, and I think it's going to be for the better.
But don't you think it's weird, though, that we are giving everything and we get nothing? It's like the Iranian deal, the nuclear deal. We get nothing and they get everything, all billions of dollars. I mean, what do we get out of these deals? Nothing. What does the other side get out of these deals? Everything. We are U.S., Uncle Sucker. We're the suckers in this whole thing.
Well, the panel also took on Republican presidential candidates Ted Cruz and Donald Trump, renewing promises to increase surveillance of Muslims in mosques in America and whether waterboarding is acceptable. You can see the whole debate, and including another one about Mayor Lee and the Ethics Commission, on our website, LasVegasNow.com.
How much does winning a congressional seat cost? I'll break that down for you next in Following the Money.
CBS Sunday, April 3rd.
We're back in Vegas, baby, for country music's party of the year.
It's the ACM Awards with superstar performers Florida Georgia Line, Carrie Underwood, Blake Shelton, Chris Stapleton, Eric Church, Keith Urban, Kelsey Ballerini, Sam Hunt, Jason Aldean, Thomas Rhett, Cam, Kenny Chesney, and your hosts Luke Bryan and DIERKS Bentley.
Join me and the new guy.
The Academy of Country Music Awards, live CBS Sunday, April 3rd, or stream it live.
The world is getting more dangerous. Your home may not be as safe as you think. Trust Rolladin Rolling Shutters to protect your home, your business, and especially your family. Your windows alone can't stop burglars. You need the protection only Rolladin Rolling Shutters can provide. With durable construction and insulation, you'll be safe and secure while saving up to 60% off your energy bills. Rolladin introduces Fire Sense. It automatically opens your shutters in case of fire. Call Rolladin Rolling Shutters for details. 702-878-1072 for your peace of mind.
Since 1961, Pearl Vision has provided the neighborhood with expert eye care. That was Dr. Stanley Pearl's vision, and we still proudly carry on his legacy. Today, doctors like Lisa Hamilton perform eye exams that can help detect diabetes. Because we care for you and your eyes. This is genuine eye care in your neighborhood. This is Pearl Vision.
I'm Alan Yarborough, sales manager, Jim Marsh Mitsubishi. Jim Marsh Mitsubishi has just had our greatest year in our history, and the reason is we can sell for less. Get a new Mirage for only $89 per month. Plus it gets 44 miles per gallon and has a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty so you can drive with confidence. Get $3,500 cash back to use as you please. So hurry, this sale ends March 31st. Get 44 miles per gallon for only $89 per month. And remember, if you don't drive here, you can't save here.
As we interview candidates for the Congressional District 3 and Congressional District 4 races, one key factor will be how much money candidates need to raise. The primaries are in June, so that doesn't give them much time. A joint report by the American Enterprise Institute and the Brookings Institution showed that winners spent an average of about $1.6 million in 2012. That number's increased every single year since 1986, when winning a congressional seat cost an average of just $360,000. Breaking it down by party, the average Republican winner spent $1.85 million in 2012 compared to $1.4 million for the Democrats.